okay.
I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Here we go. We're a little late. It's Wednesday, March 12th. It's another edition of the Daily Puck Drop here, Puck Sports, pucksports.com. I'm inside the Puck Sports Studios, built by Limback Lumber Contractors. They got free deliveries, everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects. The largest stock moldings, by the way, in the Northwest. Old school service because they've been doing it since 1930. Give Limback Lumber a call, 206-782-3487. Visit them online, limbacklumber.com. We're going to, coming up on today's show, it's Wednesday. We'll talk a little John Schneider. ESPN does not like what the Seahawks have done. Rob Staton will drop on by, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. We have not talked to him since all the Seahawks madness. And, of course, our weekly visit with the human pony cake, Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times, talking spring training, talking Mariners baseball. And, of course, the go-to guy is here as well. He is in lovely Scottsdale, Arizona. Not one, but two sponsors. Brought to you by...
That's right, Puck. I'm brought to you by A Clean Streak Professional Window Washing and Exterior Cleaning Service. They're proudly serving Island and Skagit counties for more than 10 years. And if you've had some storms up there in the Northwest, there was a rainstorm here in Scottsdale last night. I took a look at my mom's roof and I thought, God, I wish Brian Turner and A Clean Streak was down here in Scottsdale so they could get up there and clean that roof off. Have them do it for you. They window wash, they pressure wash, they clean the gutters. They do it all. Brian Turner's a great guy besides all of that. So for free estimate, call 360-395-5748 or visit acleanstreak.com. And while we're in Scottsdale, we're going to try and play golf. It's going to be difficult, though. The weather, we have really crummy timing. Like, you're coming down here next week. This week, it's supposed to be like 95% chance of rain tomorrow, but we're still going to get out. If you want to get out down there in DuPont, make sure you do the home course. Everybody knows how great the home course is. They've got a super deal going on, their annual stay and play package starting at $109 for one night's lodging and two free rounds with a cart at the home course. Limited number of packages available, so book today at thehomecourse.com/stay. That's thehomecourse.com/stay.
29 days until the Masters, by the way. 29 days. I did the 30-day countdown yesterday with the music with Brad Adam. I'm not going to bore people again with it, but...
Well, you won't bore me.
I know, 29 days away. No Tiger Woods. No Tiger. God,
you know, it's so funny. There's no in-between with the Masters and the music and the azaleas and the dogwoods and everything. It's either you love it and you tear up, or you think, God, what a sappy piece of shit that is.
Is this not the best time in sports? I contend there is no second to this. People will say maybe, the first, college football and the NFL and that first weekend, but this is we got opening day 15 days away. I guess it's closer than that because you got the Dodgers are playing in Tokyo, but you got but it starts 15 days away for baseball. Less than 30 days for the Masters. We got what? Next week, we've got the March Madness starting. Then we got the NFL draft, which is its own season. This is glorious. And the weather's changing. We get the fake spring here in Seattle, so everyone thinks it's going to be nice, and then it won't be, but at least we get it for a week or two.
Yeah, no, it's a great time of year for sports. Yeah, and I'm with you on the Masters. I mean, we tear up with that whole thing, and baseball season. Yeah, the whole thing. I mean, there's plenty of stuff to bet on. That's what I'm interested in.
Okay, are you just real quickly on the Masters? I think we talked about on Monday. Are you pulling for Rory or not?
Yeah, I have a soft spot in my heart for Rory McIlroy. I always pull for him. I want him to meet his potential, and I don't want him to go down in golf history as what could have been with Rory.
Yeah,
that's what it is right now, though.
Of course.
Because I don't think he hasn't met his potential. I mean, you look at that guy's swing and his game and everything he's got going on, and you're wondering why he hasn't won more often, more major tournaments. So yeah, I hope he gets a green jacket.
Because the debate will be this: can you call him one of the all-time greats if he doesn't win a green jacket?
I think you'd still have to put him in there, wouldn't you? God, he just seems like he's a choker sometimes, though, doesn't he? I
Well,
mean, all those guys miss short putts from time to time, but boy, it sure seems like Rory misses more than his share.
think about the last two times he's been in contention a major championship. He just completely he didn't even fall apart. He in the British Open, he just said he played scared. He played scared, and Cam Smith walked him down and beat him. And you're right, he had a chance on a putt on the British Open, and he couldn't make it. And then last year's U.S. Open. I mean, that was his.
What was that, like a 3-footer?
Yeah,
Maybe
that U.S.
4
Open
feet.
was his. That was his. And he missed another putt. Yeah, it's
God,
tough.
if you wanted anybody to swing, who would it be? Like Adam Scott, Rory McIlroy?
Adam Scott for me would be the perfect swing. I think it's the perfect swing. Or Freddie or Adam Scott.
I had a buddy ask me if you'd rather look like Adam Scott or have his golf swing.
It looked like him.
Can you imagine how much he's gotten over the years?
look like him for sure. Who would you rather be right now as we transition a little bit? This is a great segue. John Schneider or Jerry DiPoto?
Well, John Schneider for sure, because he's a decent.
Are you sure about
person.
that?
Yeah, well, he's a good guy. I'm not so sure. I mean, I'm just going to take personal stuff into it too. You didn't ask me who's the better general manager or team president.
Well, that's obvious.
Yeah. So, I mean, you just left this huge canvas for me to paint on. So I'm painting and I'm going, yeah, Jerry's a dick. John's not a dick, but I understand why he's, on the hot seat.
He likes beer. He seems like an everyday guy. And I think that's part of it. And I would say this to him. If we could offer him some free advice, I would tell him to do more interviews because he's a likable guy. And I think the heat would get because the heat's kind of turned up on him right now. The heat would die down a little bit if he did a little bit more because he's a likable guy. John Schneider is a guy that you would sit next to at a bar, have beers with, and watch a game on the TV.
Yeah. Well, he is. And I think he spent some time at Dino's. I mean, I think he just lives up the street from there. So he probably, has a pop or two and then heads home. But no, he is. He's more I think we can all agree he's more likable than Jerry. I mean, Schneider doesn't stand in front of the mirror for more than 30 seconds before he leaves. And Jerry,
how long do you think Jerry's in front of the mirror?
standing in front of the mirror? Good God. And then picking out his clothes in the walk-in closet. Schneider probably just like, hey, honey, I forget what's his, you got a sweatshirt I can wear today. I mean, we love John Schneider. So I hesitate when I saw what you had on the lineup today. Like, oh God, I don't want to criticize Schneider. He called me after I got fired from 710 and said, hey, sorry, man, And so when people do that, and I know it's not a personal issue or anything, but God, I like the guy. And I think he's done a good job overall. But again, I understand why he's under the microscope here, because if it doesn't work out, the Seahawks probably Jody Allen, they're going to have to make a move to someone else.
I don't know. It's interesting because that's a lot of the narrative and the talk here recently. Hey, and including myself. Yeah, if this doesn't work out, he's only under contract through 2027. I don't know the relationship that he has with ownership. They clearly made the decision to go with him over Pete Carroll, so I would assume that it's pretty solid, right? He's on solid ground. I would say this. I think he's on more solid ground than us in the media and fans probably think. I don't think he's on like a thin ice or he's got something to prove to ownership, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, he could be, but this year, though, with the move that he made, going away from Geno, bringing in Darnold, they haven't really done anything to address the offensive line yet.
Not yet.
And so when you look at it on paper right now, and hopefully they'll get one of those guys, one of those guards that's still out there that's in the ESPN's top 100 free agent list of offensive linemen. But if they don't, you got to be nervous going into the season because Geno handled the pressure better than Sam Darnold probably will. That's the thing, too. I mean, in Minnesota, Darnold had a decent offensive line and great receivers to throw to, and then he comes to Seattle, and he's not going to have a decent offensive line at this point. And He's got Bobo and JSN to throw to at this point.
Well, the free agent wise for wide receivers, we had DeAndre Hopkins. Danny Kelly and I talked about that yesterday. He would thought that maybe Hopkins would have been an option for Seattle. He's gone. I think where did he go? Baltimore. It's hard to keep up with everyone where they're at. But you look at the free agent class of wide receivers. It's not great. I mean, Stephon Diggs would make sense just because, again, we play this game, right? There is a crossover with him and Clint Kubiak in Minnesota for a year. Maybe that's an option for them. But in terms of, and maybe someone's released that we don't know about, things change, especially, today with the league year starting. Things can always, there could be a veteran cut. There could be something that happens that a guy that you didn't think was available all of a sudden is available. Maybe that's Cooper Kupp. I don't know. It seems like Cooper Kupp and JSN are kind of the same thing. I think we have a love affair for Cooper Kupp, what he once was, not what he is now. And so, yeah, I don't know.
Are we sure about that, though, with Kupp?
Are we sure about what?
That because of the injury, and he's not that old yet, is he? I mean, is he going to, all of a sudden not be the Cooper Kupp that we knew early on?
Well, I would say,
and we pulled for him because he's from Yakima.
Well, I know, but that's why I think there's this for me, I'll just speak for myself. There's this natural, Cooper Kupp's available. Like you're getting the 25-year-old or 26-year-old version of Cooper Kupp. You're not getting that anymore. You're not getting the Davis High School product. You're not getting Eastern Washington.
Is he 30 already?
Yeah. He might be north of 30.
Oh, okay.
But battling injuries, and I just think, and you know this, he's 31. He'll be 32 in June. I mean, when that drop hits, man, it hits fast in the NFL. It hits fast. And
don't you think he'd still be an asset to the team, though, depending on what you pay him?
I think he could be, but does he play? I'm just asking. Doesn't he play a similar spot that JSN does?
Yeah, you might want to check with Staton in the next segment about that. I root. You want to know why I root for him? Number one, he's from Yakima.
Sure.
Number two, if he's good enough to beat the Cougs, which he was, that day that he just was open.
Good enough to beat he had 70 yards.
Yeah.
How many yards did he have?
I don't know. And that's not River or Sky, by the way. It's a guy next door. You want me to go yell at him?
If you can. I mean, I would just,
Hey, can you quiet your dog down? I'm trying to do a podcast over
here. I can't wait till the person leans over and tells you to shut the F up.
That person doesn't know that I'm usually the one that's in trouble because of dogs. Then here's a little known fact about Cooper Kupp. Back when I worked with Calabro, we interviewed him before he was drafted. Okay, so there's two major, hamburger joints in Yakima, and everybody always talked about Miners. Okay, don't roll your eyes at this.
I've heard this a million times.
Oh, no, you haven't. There's some people out there who haven't. The other one's Majors. There's Majors and Miners. I'm a Majors fan in Yakima, and so is Cooper Kupp.
Okay.
Miners is overrated compared to Majors. When you're in Yakima, go to Majors instead of Miners. Okay.
In a 45-42 upset over the Cougars, probably not really much of an upset, Cooper Kupp caught 12 passes, 206 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. He's like that Nash guy from San Jose State.
I want Nick Nash. You know me. You know my love affair with Nick Nash at San Jose State. I'm all in.
Yeah. Well, and then Rob covers all this. Isn't it a good year for receivers in the draft? And the Seahawks are loaded with picks. They can, but do you expect it? That's the thing. You don't necessarily expect, no matter how good the receiver is, you don't necessarily expect him to come in year one and be gangbusters.
I think I'll talk, Rob's talked about it. We've talked about it with Danny, also with Dane Brugler from The Athletic, who is part of our 7-part series we're doing there for Puck's Posse members. Hey, sign up today. Just $5 a month, by the way. It's not.
By the way, Dane looks like he's 22 years old. I mean,
he's getting younger, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he does a good job.
I would say they've all said kind of the same thing. It's a good class. It doesn't have like that top end guy or two. Like once you get past like Travis Hunter, it doesn't have like these elite guys, but it's a solid like class where you can find guys, in the middle rounds. So
okay, they got plenty of
get
picks in the middle rounds
for sure. They got a ton of picks. You expect them to take a quarterback with one of their they got 4 picks in the second and the third round. You think one of those are a quarterback?
I hope so. I mean, they got to groom somebody, don't they? I mean, it suggests that they like Sam Darnold, but they don't love him based on what they're paying him.
Of course. That's why don't you think it's a win-win? And how about that news happening was that Friday or was that Monday? That was Monday. How about that news happening? Unbelievable.
You're talking about 11 o'clock? Or was it 11:30?
11:30. It was 5 minutes after we stopped.
Yeah.
5 minutes that it comes down. That's Sam Darnold. So I don't know if we can not sure we can keep calling ourselves the breaking news show of record. We missed out on Sam Darnold.
Probably not. But people would have missed out on my top 10 wish list, though, if the Darnold news had broken earlier.
That's right. Number 1 on that list was Gardner Minshew, by the way. Hey, You can read that at Jim. Was that on the Jim Moore one?
Jim Moore, the go-to guy.substack.com.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know if that was for the Tribune, Kitsap, Valley Sun, the Bend Journal, Scottsdale Press, wherever else you're writing for these days.
Hey, shut the fuck up, man. I'm always praising you. I'm praising you. Like, God, Puck's doing a great job with his podcast. He's off to a great start. Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. All right. You got all kinds of new stuff happening. You got the Scout. You got exciting announcements coming up.
Hey, I like the Scout. Give it a listen if you haven't listened to the Scout.
I didn't say I didn't like the Scout. I heard the guy. Okay. Yeah.
Give it a watch. It's up on YouTube. It's also part of the Daily Puck Drop when we did it last Thursday. Yeah, just kind of get a behind-the-scenes look from a scout's perspective on the Mariners. I'll
give you a behind-the-scenes look today about the Mariners.
Oh, that's right, because you're there.
Yeah, I'm going to Peoria. I'm probably going to go to Hooters for lunch and then head over to the ballpark and I'll go behind the scenes. I'm waiting. You'll appreciate this. I woke up this morning and I thought, God, do I want to pay $40 a ticket or do I want to try and see if I can milk free tickets from the Mariners one more time? Am I still considered a member of the media or am I like has been washed up? Don't even try. And I thought I wrestled with these things in my mind. And then I thought, screw it. I'm going to email Heavley and see if he's got tickets for me. I haven't heard back from him yet, though.
Shocker.
Hey, maybe Shannon Drayer has some tickets. I could get a hold of her.
Listen, man, if I'm the Mariners and you know what, if I'm Tim Heavley, and for people who don't know, Tim Heavley runs the media department, baseball information, they like to call it, but the media, he's the head of media for interviews and things like that. Do you think Tim Heavley goes, Jim, I like you, and I do. I think he does like you. But do you think he goes, but I also hear what you say about our team, and specifically the president of our baseball team. And in good conscience, I can't just give you free tickets.
Well, Tim's probably not. I don't know this. I'm just talking out my ass as usual. But I can't imagine that people who work there actually like Jerry. They have to pretend that they like him. So I don't think he cares if anybody's critical of Jerry DiPoto. Plus, I have a history with Tim. Back when we were in our 20s, he was a copy boy at the PI, and I was assistant sports editor. And I would send him on runs to Tai Tung over in Chinatown, and he'd bring back Chinese food for us. It was awesome.
All right, well, just keep. Hey, when you address him next time, what did you call him? Copy boy. So when you send the email, does it say, "Hey, copy boy, how about some free tickets"?
Hey, remember back in the day when I was a dick and I was your boss and I, forced you to go to Tai Tung and bring back food for us?
Yeah, I guarantee. What are the odds you don't get free tickets? I'll bet you $20 you don't get free tickets.
All right, you know what? I'm going to take you up on that.
Okay, you do it.
$20. I think I've built up enough reputation over the years that warrants free tickets for me today.
Okay, handshake. $20.
Okay.
Now,
God, why don't you show more faith in me? I always support you. I mean, you quit your damn job in support of me, and then now look at you. You're back to trashing me like you did at KJR. People don't appreciate that. You swing at my ankles sometimes. It's not cool.
I'm not swinging at your ankles. What I'm saying is...
Do you think you could reach my ankles, by the way?
What are you trying to say?
If we were toe-to-toe and you were trying to, because I don't know, you're shorter than me and stuff. I don't know.
Reach your ankles? What do you mean? How would I reach your ankles?
If you were swinging at my ankles.
Oh, swinging at your ankles. Yeah, I think I could swing at your ankles.
Like Gene Segura couldn't hit my ankles.
Gene Segura.
Remember that? He kind of had little alligator arms.
Yeah, I know. I know exactly. All right, I'm just texting Heavley not to give you free tickets, so hold on.
Oh, you are? What, and you're going to give him a 10 spot? You'll give him half?
I don't think you're going to get it. I don't think you're going to get
You know
the
what he's
free
probably
tickets.
doing? He's probably gets the email and he's sitting down there in Peoria and Alex Mayer. He's probably, Alex, come over here and get a load of this. You know, this piece of shit who's always ripping our team has that got the audacity to ask for free tickets.
That's what I mean. I mean, again, he's probably laughing, but he's like, why would I give you free tickets when you just shit on the team all the time?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Just
if I'm Tim
buy the
Headley,
tickets.
I wouldn't give me free tickets. I wouldn't. But I thought it was worth the shot in the dark to take it because I thought, God, if all four of us go, you know, $40 each, $160 to watch a preseason game. I think I'll bet on the game too. I haven't checked the odds.
Well, good. You can just make up your money there. The money that you would lose, the $140, just make it, or the 140 plus, just make it up on the game that you bet. Whose idea was it to go to Hooters? Yours or the kids?
Not mine. Yeah, it was mine.
Good for you.
Because I think I told you we used to go there at 7:10 when we went down there for a week. We would go there every day before the show.
Good.
Just so Wyman could get shit faced.
Just so you just want to relive those moments. All right, I want a full report. What if you see DePoto? Are you gonna try and do an interview with him?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Yeah. You want me to try though?
Yeah, of course I want you to try. If you see Jerry DePoto walking around and you don't go up and say, "Hey, Jerry, hey, it's Jim. How are you?"
I know, but I'm not technically a media member anymore.
No, well, I disagree.
I mean, I say, hey, Jerry, you got a minute? I'm a member of Puck's posse, and then have him say like, what the fuck is that?
Yes, I think a media member is a lot like an alcoholic. Just because you don't drink anymore, you're still an alcoholic. Just because you really truly don't, write or in the media, you're still a media member.
Well, okay, you know what?
There's also
There's a
an
chance that he
alcoholic,
might give me the interview based on the fact that he probably has no idea who I am anymore. He's just erased any contact from his memory of the past. And so he might, if I go up to him and say, "Hey, Jerry, you got a minute? I work for, Jason Puckett, pucksports.com. Got a few minutes?" He might say, okay.
There is no way he doesn't know who you are.
I don't know.
There's just no way. Hey, you want some breaking news? We're back. The breaking news show of record is back. Even though this happened like 20 minutes ago.
Okay. So before it started.
Yeah, right. I think a day right before we started. Marquez Valdez-Scantling has signed a free agent deal with your Seattle Seahawks. Huh?
Okay.
Let's go. 6'4", 206 pounds, 30-year-old wide receiver. He spent last season in New Orleans with Clint Kubiak. So, of course, there's that familiarity there. Had 17 catches on 35 targets, 385 yards in 8 games. Scored 4 touchdowns. Of course, he had two good years, or one good year there in Kansas City. Started his career there in Green Bay. So the Seattle Seahawks, John Schneider, he's heating up in free agency, has signed a veteran wide receiver, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So we got Valdez-Scantling, Jake Bobo, and JSN. I mean, I'm thinking Super Bowl.
Come on. Hey, okay, Valdez-Scantling, though, 1 touchdown less than DK Metcalf last year.
That's a great point. That's right. And think about how many games DK played in. Did he play in every game?
15.
Yeah, okay, missed a couple. So in 8 games, Valdez-Scantling had 1 less touchdown. Hey, that's good. Can I tweet that out that you said that?
So, yeah, but give me credit, because you always get on people if they don't.
I am. I'm going to give you credit.
Yeah, I want credit. Yeah, you're big on that. I'm not sure if you lost that fight or won that fight last week.
Why? You think I lost that?
Some people think you lost that fight.
Well, what do you think?
I think you won that fight. I don't think it was a unanimous decision, but judges at ringside would have scored in your favor.
I agree. I don't think he was unanimous. No, you're right. You're right. But it's annoying.
I'm firmly in your corner on that one, but there are no journalistic ethics or standards anymore, anywhere, at any time. It's a new world out there.
I know, but it's just it just bothers me. And it's just a trend on Twitter where people just literally rip off people's work and then post it as their own. It's annoying. But I mean, whatever. I mean,
No.
I guess it is what it is, but it's
Yeah,
just
things have changed. Oh, here, I'll set you up for I'll tee one up for you. I'm glad that the Seahawks got Valdez-Scantling because they lost their last hyphenated guy when they didn't tender him a contract. What was that guy's name? You really liked him. They brought him in last year.
Roy Robinson Hills. Roy Robinson Hills.
Yeah.
Come on down here, Roy Robinson Hills. So Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he had 4 touchdowns.
Okay. Can I ask you something else that's really impertinent, but might be interesting to you or me or somebody else? When people have hyphenated last names, what does that generally mean? Like Ryan Roland Smith, was he Ryan Roland when he was growing up, and then his mom got divorced and married a guy named Smith? Or
I don't know.
Well, I know, but don't you ever wonder about that? Like, like when Marquez, what's his name again? Valdez-Scantling, when he comes to town, like, hey, Jim Moore, Puck Sports, fairly nice year with the Saints last year, Marquez, but how'd you end up with 2 last names anyway? It might make for a good story.
Yeah, I'm with you.
No one will ask him that, though.
Well, then you have to be the one that does it.
Yeah, I mean, Corbin Smith will be Corbin Smith, with the Emerald City, what he's doing now. And I was watching the All 60 or the All 30 last year, and it appeared to me that it'll be stuff like that.
The All 60. You know what? I'm glad our good friend, I don't actually know if he's a good friend of yours, but I worked with him a long time. I would still call him a friend. Ray Roberts said something. You friendly with Ray Roberts?
I am friendly with Ray Roberts. Okay. Yeah, he was doing stuff. He's still doing stuff for 710. Yeah. He's on the pregame show.
Yeah. Are you getting paid how many times you say 710 today? Because that's the 4th time.
Well, I didn't say anything. I used my filter when you were talking about Schneider. It was like, he needs to talk to the media more. And I was like, well, yeah, he does a weekly show with Wyman and Staton.
Yeah, but he needs that. What I'm saying is with everybody. I know.
And then everybody listens to that now, and then
everyone listens to it, and then it's like everyone's writing out the same stuff, like left and right.
Yeah. No, Wyman scored on that one because he's good buddies with Schneider.
Is he? Where was I going with that?
I don't know.
Ray Roberts. Ray said something good, and I am. It's like the all 22 guy. I'm so tired of all 22 person, but. You know what's topping all 22 person, and Ray talked about it yesterday or mentioned it on Twitter, is this outside zone guy.
Oh yeah, we're getting a lot of that because that's Kubiak's preferred blocking scheme.
Shut up, all of you. Shut up.
Yeah, outside zone guy. Well, they can't have him. He's not an outside zone guy.
Can we just get 5 line? I don't care what they are. Can we just get some linemen that can, wait for it, block? Just block. I don't care.
You downplay that, but it might be of interest to a lot of people out there.
I'm downplaying the use of it by people who, quote, cover the team about outside zone. Just nonstop outside zone guy is starting to replace all 22 guy.
Are there inside zone blockers?
Yeah, there's some inside zone. And it's like outside zone guy is now in the category of all 22. Also, baseball rules guy. And where else?
Do you know what outside zone means?
Outside zone. Yeah, they're running to the outside.
Well, I mean, do they block in an area, and if a guy's there, they block him?
They're blocking space. You just want someone who's more athletic. Just think of the Broncos back in the day. It's just
Can we get these guys? If I'm a beat writer, man, I'm talking more about point spreads.
I'm with you, Jim. 100%. I want more point. Tell Condota. And Condota's not one of those. So shout out to Condota. He's not an outside zone guy. But let's get with Condota and be like, hey, man, time to start talking a little more gambling in the articles.
Well, and not just on the teams themselves, but God, this prop betting is just crazy. You could write stories all week about, hey, JSN, plus is over under 6.5 catches this week, and then break that down. Why he's going to go under or why he's going to go over. So you'd be doing a service for your readers because you could maybe make some money for them while they're paying these outrageous fees to subscribe to your paper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to him and say more gambling talk.
Yeah, that was greeted with, like stunned, awkward silence for a second there.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really, what was the point? That's where I was going with it.
Well, when do I have one?
When do I have one? No one has a point. None of us do. All right, are you playing golf today? It looks like it's wonderful there in Scottsdale. Why don't you get on the course today?
No, it's getting nicer. Well, I told you I'm going to the Mariner game.
Well, you can. Yeah. Can't you double dip?
Yeah. Okay. So what are the better odds? Did I get an interview with Jerry DePoto or Shannon Dreher says hello to me?
Ooh, well, yeah. I don't think she's going to say hello to you.
Yeah, I think if it's a craps game, you bet on the don't pass.
Yeah, that's okay. Are you going to try and talk to her?
If I see her, yeah.
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 I want to give you an update. ESPN does not like what the Seahawks have done. If you care about what ESPN thinks, I don't know. And I'm just trying to see who wrote this article. I think it's just a collaboration of.
Is it Bill Barnwell?
No, it's not Bill. Yeah, no, it's not him. The same guy that hates everything the Seahawks do, along with Mina Kimes. Those two.
Yeah.
It's a mistake.
He doesn't like Darnold coming in.
Oh yeah, because she's on the. It's a mistake they traded Geno. She was the same person that said it was a mistake they got rid of Russell Wilson. It was a mistake that they got rid of Pete Carroll. So it's nothing they do is good.
Does Mina ever do anything that you like?
Yeah, I think probably. ESPN.
Name one.
Yeah. Universally panned movie award. The Seahawks trade Geno Smith to the Raiders. So ESPN does not like the trade. The early contender for 2025 most generally disliked move is the Seahawks plan at quarterback. They sent Geno Smith to the Raiders for a third-round pick, an absolute pittance for a veteran starting quarterback, as the extension discussed frayed over time between the player and the team. They replaced him with Sam Darnold to a 3-year, $100 million deal. If you want to squint your eyes and see the upside, you can. Darnold is 7 years younger than Smith, certainly will have a less costly contract than Smith, who has yet to sign a deal there with the Raiders. So he
universally disliked?
Universally panned award.
Oh. I know, but don't you think that if you talk to 100 Seahawks fans, there'd be 50 that liked the deal and 50 that didn't?
Probably.
That's not the definition of universally.
Yeah. The problem, they write, the problem is that squinting perspective misses the forest for the trees. It is extremely unlikely Darnold performs in Seattle as well as or better than he did in Minnesota, because Seattle's offensive nucleus is dreadful compared to Minnesota's unit, which is, right now it's true. It just is. I don't think you can argue that.
Okay, but can we agree that we know what Geno was and is?
Yeah.
But with Darnold, there's still a little bit of doubt there. You hope he's not the guy that was, before he got to Minnesota. You hope he is that guy that was in Minnesota, sure. And maybe even better than that. Yeah. And if he's not, I'm sure they've got somebody's going to come out with like, oh, here's a way they can get out of the contract next year.
It's 2 years. It's basically 2 years, $55 million. It's nothing. Yeah. It's nothing. It's a nothing deal. It's in the day and age of NFL quarterbacks. It's a nothing deal. It's absolutely a bargain, an absolute bargain what they got. So I just okay.
Yeah, he probably cost himself what, $10 million a year those last two games.
Yeah, good. I'm glad he sucked. It was good. All right, we got to run. Have fun at the Mariners game, and it looks nice there. Good luck with the golf game. We won't see you on Friday, correct?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. We'll see you on Monday then.
All right, Puck. Sounds good, man.
Go Cougs. Yeah, I beat you. Go Cougs. There he is. Jim Moore, the go-to guy with us Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Brought to you by A Clean Streak. Also, the home course there as well. Let's get more on the Seahawks. Man, so much has happened with the Seahawks, and we haven't talked to this guy since last week. And my God, We could spend an hour today talking about all the moves that the Seattle Seahawks have made. Rob Staton joins us now, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. It's all brought to you by Superior Linen Service, family owned and operated since 1926, committed to delivering the highest quality products and services to the greater Puget Sound area. Get your free quote today at suplinen.com. Give him a call, 253-383-2636. Rob is, of course, at SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Check out all his video content. He's got one of the best channels in the world on YouTube, Rob Staton Football. Follow him on Twitter at Rob Staton. And he joins me from the Puck Sports Studios built by Limback Lumber. Where would you like to start with all the moves?
Poor.
My God.
Whatever you want. I mean, I think the thing that's annoyed me the most today is the meltdown over Will Fries, who is a player that most people didn't even know anything about 2 weeks ago. And he's a very good player. You know, I think when you watch him on the tape, he's very good, Puck. But maybe you can explain to me why the world is ending now because he is signed for the Minnesota Vikings.
I don't think the world is ending, but I think people got excited about him when they heard his name, and when everyone is saying that two players in particular are really good at two spots that you are not good at, center and guard. And I think when it was Dahlman and Fries, and I agree. Listen, I don't know anything about Will Fries. I knew nothing about him, nothing at all. But I think when you see those are the two top, targets in free agency, and you need a center and you need a guard. Well, you need two guards. You're like, all right, if those are the top two guys, go get them. And when you don't get them, Rob, people are just tired of it because this is a decade where this organization in free agency hasn't been able to address the offensive line. So I don't think it's about the player Will Fries. It could be Will Jackson. He was the top guard on the market, and they didn't get him, and I think people are like, well, then what are we going to do?
Which is fine. What they're going to do is they're going to go into the draft, and this is a good offensive line draft. And I know that it's not ideal to have a very young offensive line, but it is also the best way to build your team in any way, whether you're drafting a quarterback, whether you're drafting an offensive line, defensive line. It is to have good young players and to draft well. And the Seahawks have got 5 picks in the first 92 selections in this draft. And when you look through the draft, there are players at all of the spots in round 1, 2, 3, and 4 where you could say he'd be a good option there, he'd be a good option there. I just think as someone who has been very critical of the Seahawks at times over the last few years, I just don't think this is a battle to pick with them. I think I had a look at some of the reaction to this, and I think this is really interesting for any Seahawks fans who are feeling particularly down about Will Fries going somewhere else. There's a couple of points I would raise here. And Curtis Allen, who writes for my blog, did a very good, he made a very good point. Since the legal tampering period opened, over the cap have logged over 100 new contracts signed by players. Over 100 players have signed new contracts that have been sort of somewhat ratified. There have only been 7 contracts that have been 4 years in length or more. And there's only been 1 contract for 5 years. And that was for Will Fries. So the league is not doing deals like the one that Minnesota gave Will Fries. Yeah. They went above and beyond to get him. And this is a player coming off a broken leg. I like his tape. It is very, very good. But I don't think I did a good enough job on my blog because I came on and I'd said, you know what? He's got a very good zone blocking grade. A really good zone blocking grade according to PFF. And it was in the 90s. And he was one of the better options for the scheme. And do you know what? He played 67 snaps to get that grade last season. 67. So it's not many at all. If you go back the prior year, when he played a full season of 282 snaps, his zone blocking grade was 61.6. So I just think I understand the Seahawks fans want solutions. They want answers. They want to see John Schneider go and spend some money. There's cap space there. They want to see the Seahawks use it. They want to see some offensive linemen come in. I want to see a top 10 offensive line. What I don't want to see are players signed for the sake of it, or the Seahawks tied to deals like the Draymond Jones deal, which was an epic disaster. And I look at Gray Zabel and Tate Ratledge and the players in this draft and just think, that's the plan now. That's what they've got to do. Just pivot to that. They can be okay.
Yeah, but this is where lies the rub, though, with them. They have shown no ability to ever draft anybody in the draft. Except for 2. I mean, Cross, but I think, Cross is good. Lucas has been good when healthy, but I think for the detractors of that, let's go through the draft would be, well, you went through the draft last year. You drafted a guy in the 3rd round, and he was the 3rd string guard. I mean, I don't know, unless they change how they evaluate, especially the interior offensive line. I'm not sure what's going to change. Now, going back to Fries for a second, I agree. A 5-year deal, it's unheard of in the league. He, by the way, Schneider never gives these deals. He never goes beyond 3 years, by the way, ever goes beyond 3 years. But if you look at like what reportedly they offered him, a 3-year deal, it was the same years per year that he ended up getting with the Vikings. I would just say this. I mean, again, maybe they overpaid or in terms of years. I don't know what his deal looks like. I don't know how much of it's guaranteed and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know if you got 3 out of the 5 years of it. I would. It's good by me. I just think that we keep every offseason is the same storyline with this team. Every offseason since 2014. How are we going to improve the offensive line? And we're sitting here now, 3 days into the legal tampering, and they've done nothing to address it. I just think that's a concern. And I know there's other guys out there, but there's a bunch of guys off this board that they didn't sniff. And, you know, maybe in the second run of guys, you know, that includes, I'm just looking at the list, Becton and Scherf and Jenkins and Zietler, Hernandez, Mason, Risner, Myers, those guys, maybe they get 2 of those guys. So I'm not saying it's not over yet. I'm just saying at this point, I understand the frustration from fans because I share it as well.
Yeah. I don't think that I can only give you my honest opinion on this. And my honest opinion is if this is my message to anybody who's listening to this who is a Seahawks fan, is don't worry about that. Because I don't think any of the names that you've listed there are worth worrying about missing out on. Honestly, this is a bad free agent group. Everybody's been saying it. The league sees it as a bad.
Let me just push back on that, Rob. You were singing the praises of Drew Dahlman and Fries, were you not? Fries, were you not?
I was. I absolutely did.
So what changed? What changed then?
Well, they just didn't sign them. The rest of the guys that you're talking about are not very good. So missing out on any of these players who are left, I'm not a big Tevin Jenkins person. I'm not interested in him. I'm not interested in Mekhi Becton. I'd be interested in Kevin Zeitler because I think he's just been a consistent force for a long time. But my expectations on him elevating Seattle's line would be low, and I would still be interested in drafting somebody to replace him if possible. I think Delman would have been a good sign-in. I'd have been interested in that, but they missed out on that. And, you know, there were a number of teams interested in him. He's chosen Chicago. You know, there's nothing to say that that's not an understandable thing. Will Fries has gone for nearly $18 million a year off the back of a broken leg to a deal that no other player has signed this year in free agency. I'm not sure that I'm going to hold the Seahawks responsible for that. I mean, there's a lot of teams that were in for him as well. The Giants fans are doing the same thing the Seahawks fans are right now about Will Fries. The other sort of context I'd bring to this is, listen, I want the Seahawks to address their offensive line as much as everybody else. But the problem is we can't just magic, you know, options here, either in the draft or in free agency. And there are about 20 teams who have got a bad offensive line, maybe even 25 that got a bad offensive line. And they're all trying to solve the same problems. And the Seahawks have got to try and find a solution. But let's not make the mistake in thinking they're the only ones, or that John Schneider is the only GM over the years that's had this trouble. There's a whole bunch of them that have had this problem.
I agree. I mean, there's a problem all over the place. But I mean, frankly, and I don't care about the other teams. I mean, I care about this team and how is this team going to get better. And again, this is like draft. But again, it's the same people making the decisions in the draft, and they haven't done it for a decade. I just think it's a concern. It's a concern that you still have not addressed it in free agency. You're unwilling to go past this 3 years on a deal in free agency. And then when you get to the draft, what evidence would any Seahawks fan present to you and me to go, well, they know what they're doing with the offensive line of the draft?
Again, the only thing I'll just repeat what I just said is that there are a whole bunch of teams in this exact same boat. That every year the fans say we need to sort the offensive line. I know Miami Dolphins fans who, you know, they have the same conversation. You know, one reached out to me yesterday and said the same thing. You know, and there are a whole bunch of teams that just it's a major issue within the NFL. It's as big an issue as exists. And I don't want to make excuses for John Schneider. I hope that the fact that I'm pushing back on this a little bit will be taken by some people in to mean something, because I have been as critical of John Schneider at times as anybody. And I just don't think this situation, as we sit here today, 2 days into the legal tampering, on the precipice of the actual free agency opening, and with 2 decent offensive linemen having gone elsewhere, that there's any reason why the Seahawks can't fix this offensive line. I think there are players in this draft that they will be able to draft and select. And yep, Christian Haynes didn't work out last year. Maybe that was Ryan Grubb and Scott Huff. Maybe the next staff will get that one right. In the past, they have not been able to draft these players and develop them. It is definitely something that John Schneider needs to get right. As someone who has just watched these players, though, and with 5 picks in the 92, I'm just going to give them the chance to do this. I really am. I'm just going to give them a chance to see if they can do this, and then I'm going to assess what they've done. If they come out of this draft and they haven't done anything, and Anthony Bradford's starting next year, and LeMayer, and Olu Timmy, then you'll be hearing a very different strand from me on this.
Yeah, I guess the frustration I think would be if you go back to Clint Kubiak and what he said to it was Softy on the old station. He said, "We need an elite center to run our system."
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're not going to find an elite center in the draft.
Probably not. But then,
so then
was
I'm
there
wondering
was
why
there
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, with the exception of Drew Dolman, there was nobody else, and he chose to go to Chicago. There could be a myriad of reasons for that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's his life. He may have had an offer on the table from Seattle. I guess we'll never know that. I haven't heard any rumors that they even had an offer with him. But yeah, I mean, maybe it could have just been he felt that was a better fit for him.
Hmm.
That's right. I mean, we always have to. Yeah, that's a good reminder. You have to remind yourself in free agency that there are some of these decisions, life decisions, these guys want to make for their family. I don't know. Maybe he's got a history of Chicago. Maybe his parents are from there. Who knows?
It's true. I think these are all the things that I'm as frustrated as everybody else. I want the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl, and they're not going to win the Super Bowl without a good offensive line. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. But again, like if we come out of this draft, and here's the thing that will annoy me: if they go into the draft and they do some interviews before it, let's say, and they say, we want to be a trenches team, we want to build our identity through this draft, and then the first 3 picks are a receiver, a cornerback, and a tight end or some linebacker, then we will have a conversation afterwards. We go, what on earth are you doing? Especially if they pass on these offensive linemen. But if let's say that they took an offensive lineman with their first pick and one of the seconds, or one of the seconds, one of the thirds, for example, and then they get Zeitler to come in and be experienced, or maybe they go and sign Josh Myers, the Green Bay center, let's say, in the coming days. I think we'll feel very differently about it. And I don't know. I think maybe I'm just a bit tired of the weak puck, because I think the whinging and the complaining from the element of Seahawks fandom and media who think they're smarter than everybody else about Geno Smith kind of puckered me out. Right. Pardon the pun. And then the talk of endlessly need, Sam Darnold, what is the word that people keep using? He's pressure sensitive. Well, guess what? So's every other quarterback in the NFL. If you get pressured, what do you like? You are going to make mistakes.
Do you like more pressure sensitive or outside zone scheme?
Well, I'll take the outside zone scheme, because I think it's a scheme. As opposed to, it's a bit like saying, if you kick someone up the arse, that will hurt. When you say that a quarterback is pressure sensitive, you're stating
is an arse.
An arse. Yeah, I mean, I can't live with this. And there's a group of people on the internet who think everybody is stupid who doesn't agree with them on Geno Smith, and I've had enough. And
hey, we don't have to deal with it anymore, though.
It's a huge relief. I'm sure we'll hear about it every time he throws a good pass. But yeah. I like what they've done. I think they've had a decent week. I think they've got cheaper and younger at quarterback. They've managed to get a third-round pick out of it. I think it was clear that DK Metcalf wanted out and the Seahawks wanted to move on.
Mm-hmm.
They've parlayed that into a second-round pick. They've got 5 picks in a range in the draft, which is strong. There are still some players. It's not a great free agency class. There are still some players there who, if they come in, I like the Marquez Valdez-Scantling signing. He's not going to be DK Metcalf. He's not going to be Tyler Lockett, but he made some plays in a 4-game stretch for the Saints, including Kupp.
I do like Jim pointing out, and I think astutely so. He did have 4 touchdown passes or receptions in 8 games compared to DK's 5 and 15.
And he can get downfield. Like he can stretch a defense. And again, he's not the answer, but I kind of looking at the draft board and I see Jack Besh and think he's going to be a really good receiver, and Jalen Noel and Torrey Horton and Kyle Williams and Ty Felton. And I think you can find receivers in this draft. I think you can find offensive linemen. I think you can find pass rushers. I'm excited. And the one thing I tweeted out earlier, Puck, and this is maybe to raise the spirits of this conversation, because I kind of feel like we're butting heads a little bit on the offensive line thing.
No, but I don't think it's butting heads. I just would say this. I think it's just from my perspective with fans. I understand the frustration with not being. Maybe it's just because I'm here. I don't know. I don't know if that should have anything to do with it, because the internet can reach everywhere now, and we're all kind of connected. I just think it's a frustration of one particular position group that for a decade has not been addressed. And free agency starts, and we all get excited of reading those 2 big names, and then they don't even, they don't get either of them. And I just think that it would have changed the mood of the fans had they got one of them. And I know, to your point, and I agree, not many people even knew who both of these guys were. But I don't think that's important as much as they knew that people that watched them said that they were the 2 best players. And so they're like, all right, then we should get one of those guys, because we have this massive hole in our interior offensive line. And it's been that way since they traded Max Unger. And it just seems every year we're doing the same thing. And I think on top of that, for Seahawks fans here, is you have a baseball team where they have this one thing they've got to improve every single year, and that's their offense. And then they don't improve their offense. So you're like, we got baseball season starting. We haven't improved our offense. We got this football team with this offensive line. We still have not improved the offensive line. And I just think it is, I understand the initial wave of criticism. On the same time, and the flip side of it, we talked about this yesterday, and I agree with you that it's not over. There's still guys on that list that they can get. There's still the draft. It's not a finished product at all. It's similar in a way, and we'll get to the Geno trade and Sam Darnold. Similar in a way when everyone for like a day almost panicked when they traded Geno, because they were like, oh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna like they didn't already have Sam Darnold locked up? I mean, I could just tell you that it was a done deal. Sam Darnold was a done deal when they traded him. They weren't going to trade Geno Smith and then go, well, what are we going to do now? Like, where are we going? So, obviously, they got a plan of what they want to do with the offensive line, but I just think that there is not a track record, and for this fan base with this particular GM, that he can get it right. I think that's fair, because he hasn't shown that he's been able to get it right.
Yeah, and there'll be people there that have not pored over the draft prospects and maybe sort of don't understand what's available, short of what they hear watching maybe the main players in the draft world discussing it. But I legitimately think that Gray Zabel is we've talked about it, is a perfect fit for the zone blocking scheme as a guard and a plug and play player. I think what he showed at the combine in terms of his explosive testing was, he hinted at elite potential. I think it's not to say that I get everything right, because clearly I don't, but over the years on the offensive line, it has been, I think it's been somewhat easy to predict who is going to be good. And I think Zabel has got a very good potential to be good, if not great. And Tate Radley's testing numbers, just unbelievable, just absolutely fantastic. And there's an option maybe for round 1. There's an option for round 2. and that fills me with a lot of confidence, and maybe they take a chance on a Josh Myers. So I do think that there is chance. I still think, I'm not going to give this up. Tyler Booker, I still think can play in his own system. I think the way that he tested, I've put the video on SeahawksDraftBlog.com. I know he tested terribly, but if you watch the video on Seahawks Draft Blog, you will see the guy can move. So I think he still remains an option there. So I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that they can get a good young line together. They do need to get at least one veteran, and I'm sure they will. Can I pitch something to you, though?
Yeah,
This is what I was going to
suggest. Just say, just to wrap that up, I would say this. If they got one, and these guys that are left, and I know there's some that you don't like and there's some like, but of the Becton and Scherf and Jenkins and Zietler and Hernandez and, a couple of Myers in there, and I'm just listing, Mason, but I think there's talk he may retire, Risner and all these guys. Mm-hmm. If they get a veteran, mm-hmm. one veteran, and then go the draft route, okay, fine. And again, I think that's also on the table. I'm not willing yet to give up on, I don't think anybody should be giving up on Christian Haynes. Let's just see what a different staff gets his hands on it. But I would also say about this, I don't know anything about this staff. These new guys. I don't know if they're any good at all. They may not be good. They may not, because everybody comes in and it's like, oh, well, they got these new guys. Well, maybe they're not any good. We'll see. I mean, they've cycled through a lot of these guys, especially offensive line coaches. And every time they get a new offensive line coach, I hear it's always the same thing. Well, this guy he's great. He's great. And then they come here and they last a year or two, and then they're off to another one. So we agree on that one. Get a veteran, then something to draft. All right, what are you going to pitch me?
Well, I was thinking about this earlier because obviously they have a lot of cap space, and you wonder what are they going to spend it on. And you do sort of wonder with the diminishing numbers left in free agency, could they get a bit creative here? And it popped into my mind. I was talking to Jeff Simmons about this earlier, and October 2023, Seahawks trade a second round pick for a rental of Leonard Williams, and he played well. They signed him to an extension in free agency as he approached turning 30 years old. Huge impact on the field last year. Should have been Defensive Player of the Week twice. Huge impact and terrific for Mike McDonald. I just wonder if one of the things they may consider doing is giving the Bengals a ring for Trey Hendrickson. He is 30 years old. He has 35 sacks in the last 2 seasons, 17 and a half sacks in both of the last 2 seasons. He is one of the elite edge rushers in the league. The Bengals are in a bit of a tough spot because they have to find the money to pay Jamar Chase, the franchise T. Higgins, and they've got to work out a way to do that. They've brought in Mike Gesicki. They've been signing BJ Hill and others, so that they're a bit strapped for cash right now. They can't pay Trey Hendrickson, so they have to work out, do we trade him now or do we lose him in a year? And the Bengals are notoriously difficult to trade with. But you have the stock, and there's been talk of maybe it'd take a second-round pick, 3 years, 4 years maybe, at a push of Trey Hendrickson producing at the level that he has for the last 3 or 4 years could turn this defense into an elite defense. And you can pay him $30 million a year because you have the cap space to do it. And I know there was that report, wasn't there? I mean, that cheeky bid to try and get Max Crosby out of the Raiders. It seems to me like they are on the lookout for somebody who can be a serious edge rusher. I just wonder, Puck, whether there may be a surprise yet up John Schneider's sleeve this offseason.
If you're telling me that this team can add a guy that had 17 and a half sacks last year. Oh, yeah.
And the year before.
Yes, of course. I mean, yeah, 100%. Because that's another thing. Like when we talk about on the defensive side of things, they have lacked a guy like this that is just, there's no scheming it up. You're just saying, go beat your man one-on-one. Mm-hmm. They haven't had that guy in a long time. In a long, long time. One-on-one, beat your guy. I mean, Cliff to a degree was like that, but this is a whole nother level. And they haven't had that guy where you don't have to scheme anything for him. You just go beat your guy. 100% in. For a second-round pick, sure.
And I don't know if the Bengals would do that deal. You just don't know. But the talk was initially they wanted a first. Now there's talk it could be good. It feels very similar to DK Metcalf, this. And he's a bit older, so you're going to have to pay him. So the same dilemma could emerge. You have got to get around Mike Brown, who never wants to trade anybody. And they may just hold on to him and let him go as a free agent. But because they're not run like every other franchise. It's run like a family business over there. So you've kind of got to work through that. But I just wonder whether they could do something like that, and that would be. I know the offensive line is the main thing, but that would just tilt that defense into a potentially an elite level then.
But we've talked about this a lot before. It's not just improving the offensive line; it's just improving both lines.
Mm.
You and I are and many others are in complete agreement on just building from within, trenches and build it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so you get more bodies and better players on both lines. Yeah, I don't hesitate at all, and not one bit.
And then you would, if let's say you give the DK pick to the Bengals for that, you would still have a couple of thirds, a second, a first to attack the offensive line, to get some receivers, to potentially invest in quarterback. So you would have the picks there to do that. I'd be very interested with that. Obviously, like I say, with big trades like this, they never seem to be that predictable. They kind of happen out of the blue. That really surprise you when they happen. But I think that would give everybody a lift because and it would sort of draw people's attention in a way that I don't think any other move right now could do.
It's a nice big Seahawks hug, is what we're getting.
Yeah.
Hey, it's okay. Feel better, Jason. Just here's a big hug, and here's Trey Hendrickson coming along. It
could be, Leonard Williams Mark II, and sure. he has been a success. So yeah. I'm really interested in this idea.
We haven't even got. I mean, we've talked so much about the line. We haven't even got to the DK trade or the Geno trade. My God, what did you make of the Geno trade and then getting Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I think the Geno trade's completely understandable. He's going to be 35 this year. If he wants $45 million a year, then that's not going to work. And we always said there's going to have to be a compromise here. And it sounded as if Geno had no interest in compromising. He wanted what he wanted. And the Seahawks moved off that very, very quickly. And, people were saying, well, the Seahawks did want Geno all along. And Geno was inspired. Come on. There's no way the Seahawks could pivot as easily and as fluidly as they did unless there was a conversation at the combine. Like, hey, listen, 100%. Look, Mr. Darnold's agent here. What's it going to take to get this done if we need a quarterback? Okay, we're going to have that conversation, right? And then the trade happens. You anticipate that it could happen. You move on. You get a third-round pick. You pivot to Sam Darnold, and I'm totally just intrigued by Sam Darnold.
I think the Geno stuff, I think they've known for so long how much he wanted. And they went to that combine even before it, that they knew that they were gonna pivot off that as fast as they could. And especially when they knew that Carroll got hired with the Raiders, they were like, it's perfect. It's a perfect fit. Geno going to the Raiders, and I just think that they knew I don't think there was much of negotiations at all. I just think that they knew whatever they gave him or offered him, they knew that it was going to be rejected right away. It was never going to be countered because he values himself as a top 5 quarterback. So it was an easy decision. They almost look like good guys. Well, here you go. We're not saying no to anything, but here you go, knowing that he was going to say, no, that's not good for me. And then, with Pete now being with the Raiders, it was just an easy fit for them. It's perfect.
And I just feel like some people were losing the plot a little bit, over the weekend. I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, we're talking about Geno Smith here, aren't we? They've not traded Joe Burrow. This is not Patrick Mahomes who's left here. It's Geno Smith. So let's just get that right. And the other thing I would say is that for all those people who were very unhappy with that, if Geno Smith's as good as some of them think he is, why didn't anybody else jump in? Yeah. Why did they only get one offer, as far as I can tell, and that was the 92nd overall pick in this draft? If he was as good as some of these people say, I'm pretty sure that the Titans and the Giants and the Steelers and all of these teams would have dipped the toe in as well, and they did not. The only person who did was Pete Carroll. I think that speaks volumes.
And then when we get the full details of the contract that come out, but it's probably going to be somewhere around really just 2 years and what is it, 50 million, 55 million guaranteed. My God, you can live with that.
Of course you can.
God, you got a pick coming back. That is an absolute no-brainer. Because if he's no good and stinks, so what? You didn't pay him anything. You go find another quarterback. Then you go find one in the draft. And I don't think they probably draft a guy this year. I don't think anybody would be surprised if they spend one of those picks. What are they? If they currently have 4 in total between the second and third round, I wouldn't be surprised they use one of those on a quarterback at all.
Completely agree. And then on DK, I just think it just felt a little bit as if he wanted a change, and Seattle was more than willing to grant that, and they just took the best offer that was available now. And it would have been nice to get a higher pick. It would have been nice to maybe get a first rounder for him, but he is never. How many years did we? We were having this conversation last year. Maybe Ryan Grubb's the guy who's going to finally unlock him, and it didn't happen. And then he's going to go to the Steelers, and who's going to throw him the ball in Pittsburgh? Like, I'm great for him that he's got this huge contract, but they don't have a quarterback right now,
and a coordinator that wants to run the football.
Yeah.
It's not let's air the ball all out over the place. They want to run the football. So, with DK, and I think we chatted about last week, I think that there's a regret that they didn't get more out of him, whether it was the fault of the quarterback, the coordinator, whoever. Just felt that he wasn't elite. And I don't think it's all just on the coordinator. I don't think it's all just on the quarterback. I think he plays a part in it. How much of the pie, when you divvy it up, does he play a part in it? But he shares a responsibility for it. But yeah, it didn't. He should be a guy based on his size, athleticism. Should be the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. It shouldn't be close.
Well, if anybody wants to feel good about the prospects in this draft, I would just say a bit of homework for anybody. Go and search for Jack Besh, and that is spelled Bech on YouTube. And he is somebody that in round 2, I'd be very interested in.
Where did he play, Rob?
He played at TCU. Okay. So he's Jack Besh. He's a very, very interesting receiver and could play as a good complement outside to Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I'd go and check him out.
The overall class of the wide receivers from what you've seen doesn't have that elite guy other than, I guess, Hunter. But when you get past that, good depth, good, just kind of good, solid guys all the way around.
I think very good in terms of the depth, just not good in terms of the elite players. So there's not going to be, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr. in this draft. But just looking at my board, I've got 6 players that I think are sort of late first, second round. I then have, if you just give me 2 seconds, 9 players that I would take, back in round 2, round 3. And then, round 4, I would say there are probably about 8 players that would take, in round 4. So the numbers are there, and you will be able to get, I think, a couple of receivers in this draft who are not just players that you bring in and pan out the depth. I'm talking about players like, I could easily see Ty Felton being the next Tyler Lockett. Okay. I could easily see Torrey Horton having a really good career in the NFL. So Jalen Noel, people like Jaden Higgins. So Kyle Williams, there's some really good players in this draft that you can get. So I think that will have played a part with this as well. I think the Seahawks have looked at their receiver board and gone, we're comfortable trading DK because we know we can get receivers.
All right, before you go, go check out Rob's latest work, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. He's got a story up there. Relax. He's channeling his inner Aaron Rodgers. To all of us as Seahawks fans, relax. He also has a piece up there on Will Fries there as well. Go check that out at SeahawksDraftBlog.com. What else you got up there currently? What else are you working on? And what about up on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, YouTube channel, there's a lot of reaction to everything that's been happening. And if there is any big news, I will probably jump on a live stream immediately and get into that. I'm working on a piece at the minute, which will be up soon, which looks at the options at 18, round 2, round 3, just to give people an idea as to what could be realistic in this draft. And I think that might ease some of the concerns that people have got about certain positions. And then I've also got a piece that I'm working on about players that I think have got a really good chance to be, great players. And not just talking about the players who are going to go in the top, 5. I'm talking about players who, the gems, the sort of second, third round, fourth round picks that that could end up being really good. So stay tuned for that.
He does all the work, man. He busts his ass off, and I'm sure you guys all know that right now. SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Follow Rob on Twitter, Rob Staton, and then check out the great YouTube channel. He's getting on there all the time, especially when news breaks, at Rob Staton Football there on YouTube. All right, my friend. Cheers. Get some sleep. Okay.
I need it. it.
We'll talk to you next week.
See you later.
There he is, Rob Staton. SeahawksDraftBlog.com, and Rob again joins us every single week. It's brought to you by Superior Linen Service, family-owned and operated since 1926, committed to delivering the highest quality products and service to the greater Puget Sound area. Get your free quote today, suplinen.com. Give him a call, 253-383-2636. Find the full Rob Staton episode up on YouTube. When you're there, please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. Also, Rob will be part of the Daily Puck Drop. That full show for your podcast, favorite platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts, and, of course, always up at pucksports.com. Let's switch gears, talk a little baseball, our weekly conversation with Ryan Divish, as we catch up with Divish every single Wednesday. We record it in the morning. We play about 20 minutes or so, a portion of the show free for everyone. The full show, Ryan Divish, is part of the Pucks Posse membership. If you would like to watch and listen to the full show, sign up today to be a Pucks Posse member. $5 a month is all it costs, or you can sign up for a year. You get a discount. If you're streaming and watching it right now or later, the QR code on your screen will take you there to the Pucks Posse page. Also, another easy way to sign up, just go to pucksports.com. At the top of the web page, there's a link. Click on it. It'll take you right there. Takes you 2 minutes to sign up. Boom, 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 boom. And then you get all of the content. You are supporting all of what we're doing here at pucksports.com, but in addition, you get added bonus content like Ryan Divish every week. Our 7-part series with Dane Brugler from The Athletic covering the NFL draft as well. All right, let's get to it. Ryan Divish from Peoria, spring training. How's the ball club looking? We started off the show today with me asking him, why does it sound like he's in World War III? I don't know where you're at, but are you in a war zone right now? Is Peoria under attack?
I mean, it's like they're doing training for Top Gun outside of here, Maverick's going supersonic. And then I feel like when I was living in Tacoma and those big transports would fly in for the fly in over to Fort Lewis and Joint Base McChord there, and they'd come over they'd be like, they you come out, you look outside and it looks like Con Air is flying in, and it's, I don't know what the hell they're doing. There's an Air Force base around here somewhere.
It sounds like Peoria is under attack. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Ryan Divish Show. It is brought to you by Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, proudly serving the community since 1941, located in Tacoma's historic Proctor District. They have been family-owned and operated for 40 years. Book your next reservation at chaletbowl.com for the best in local fun. They want us to come out there, so we got to figure out a time to go when you're free. I think they want to do like a meet and greet where they take pictures with you.
Oh no, we can't have that.
Yes, but they want other people to come. Well, we're gonna make it a party, just like
I want to be nice to people.
Yes, you have to be nice to people. You're gonna be required to actually be nice, and
I want more money if I got to do that.
Well, you can talk to Reggie.
I ain't no Walmart greeter. I need some money for that stuff.
Hey, I'll be one of those Walmart greeters. Of course, Divish is in spring training. He joins us in the Limback Lumber Studios. We are what are we? 15 days away from the start of the opening season here in baseball. God, it happens fast.
Yeah, it's quick. There are days where it's going slow, like a drive from Peoria to Surprise on Bell Road, where I want to jerk the wheel into oncoming traffic because it's so slow. But I mean, you do that, it's going so slow that you probably won't hit anything because it's it's kind of crazy. And I'm kind of thinking when you just said that, oh shit, I got a bunch of stuff to do for season preview.
I have so much. I was thinking about it today of how much stuff I've got, just other stuff I got to do. And I'm like, my God, it just happens fast, and you keep pushing it off and pushing it off and pushing it off.
Yeah. Well, I think it's you get kind of caught up in the that you have time or whatever. Yeah, then then the rhythm happens and games start happening, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's getting closer and getting closer. So, no, it's at some point though, like it'll be good to get to games that really count and really matter, and you're not like looking at it and trying to project what you're seeing at spring training as to whether that's actually going to play in an MLB game.
Let's get the latest on Mitch Haniger. Sounds like they avoided a scare with him.
Oh, you mean Garver?
Oh, excuse
me. You gotta quit on the bullet bourbon. You got to go to something a little bit.
Hey, I can't quit bullet. I'll never quit it.
No, Garver took like a 92 mile per hour fastball off the hand. It was mostly kind of like the right here. It's great radio, but like the bottom part of your hand where
We're not
it's
on
like
radio anymore, you idiot.
Yeah, the fleshy pad or whatever it is. I don't know whether it's video
fleshy
or not.
Pad. I've got plenty of fleshy pads, so I know where it's at. But it sounds like Garver. I mean, there probably was a worry initially, right? And then, they're okay.
Well, anytime like you get hit there in the hand, like those bones are so fragile too that you can break. As somebody who's broken his right hand 5 times, I can tell you, like they break easy. So.
Wait, excuse me. Let's pause the show. How have you broken your right hand 5 times?
I don't. Well, I'm only 2 from punching things, but
what are the other 3 from? Baseball, getting hit on it?
I broke it one time playing pickup basketball in college. Like I got plowed into, and my hand slapped off the guy's. The back of my hand slapped off the guy's kneecap. It was the head basketball coach at Dickinson, and I had to go tell my baseball coach that I couldn't practice because I broke my hand playing basketball. And the baseball coach is, "Why were you playing basketball? You're 5'2". And
Fair
I played.
Point.
Yeah, and so I broke my hand in that game, and I knew something was really wrong because my finger was kind of displaced, and it was like this. It was noon ball, and we're playing some of the coaches, like we're playing the head basketball coach and the volleyball coach, and I had 2 of my friends were on the basketball team, and they're just screaming at me to stay in the game because I was like, you gotta stay in this. It's like game point, and I'm like, there's something wrong with my hand, so I might have done damage to it more, and then the fine orthopedist in Havre, Montana, because like I was scheduled to go back to Montana 2 days later. And my hand was so swollen that they couldn't cast it anyway. So they casted it there. And he said there might be a minor deformity. And now, like, if you look, my right hand, my fingers don't go apart.
Yeah, I see that.
And like, this is the
middle finger and the ring finger on his right hand do not separate.
Yeah. And then look at how close my pinky is. Oh. So this is how much I can open my right hand. Like I can't open it anymore from all the breaks, and then there's no knuckles. So yeah, I don't know. I punched the dugout wall my last college game too. And
that's good. Mature.
So yeah, I got stepped on playing football. Like I'm not very.
Just smart. Everything happens to that right hand. So Garver's good.
Yeah, he's fine. I think. I mean, like they don't think he need a scan or anything. I mean, you won't see him playing for a few days, but he's fine, and I mean, like he has been swinging it well down here, and
yeah, how's he looked, Ryan, overall?
I mean, he's got 6 hits and 3 of them are homers, and he's hitting the ball pretty hard. I talked to some scouts; they think his bat still isn't like the fastest thing in the world or anything like that, but he's 30-some years old. But he knows, kind of knows who he is as a hitter and stuff, and he knows what he needs to do. And they do feel like he looks better than he did a year ago at this time, where he was really searching for something.
How do you think Wilson's gonna handle him? I'm just curious about going into the season. How much do you think he catches?
Well, I mean, every year they say that they need to catch Cal Raleigh less, and then every year he catches like 155 games. It seems like. I mean, my guess is he'll catch once or twice a week. I'm sure he'll catch George Kirby when Kirby comes back because they worked well together, but they'll have to catch him once or twice a week. And the question will be whether or not they use him as a DH and run 2 catchers, because you're kind of playing with fire when you do that too often. Like I could see it like once a week and extra time a week, but in talking with DePoto, and I wrote that story kind of on Haniger, but also kind of mentioning the DH stuff, they're going to go with whoever they feel like is hitting the ball well and gives them the best chance to score some runs and be more of a viable offense. So if that's Garver, then they'll run 2 catchers sometimes and, hope that one of them doesn't get hurt in the middle of the game so you have a pitcher bat. That's kind of how you're going to have to do it.
But I guess, how much say will Wilson have in this decision making of like how much to play him and to not play him? I mean, again, you got a former catcher, and I know Service was a former catcher, but you've written about, everybody's talked about the relationship between Wilson and Raleigh, and I'm just wondering now with Wilson in his first full year, will that workload on Cal Raleigh change a bit? I guess is that his call? Where Peoria's getting bombed right now, is that his call or is that above his head?
I mean, it's somewhat it's a mixture of both. Like they can tell, because like they have the high performance staff and stuff, and so Rob Schneider and the training staff can just go and say, hey, Cal's really beaten down right now. You need to get him a day off, and not even DH him. And I mean that's something they could do. I don't think it's everybody just think that Jerry makes the lineup, but like they do, the general manager does hold like the idea of playing time, and this isn't like this isn't just only the Mariners, this is everybody. Like they'll say, oh look, this is our starter here, that we've set up the roster this way, that's how you're going to do it, and the manager has to comply. It's not like on Moneyball where they they have to trade a guy so they stop playing, like that's not how it works anymore. So I mean, I think Dan, there is some leeway in between how Dan wants to use his guys, but if DePoto thinks that they're playing Cal too much behind the plate and that they're running the risk of injury, he absolutely can just tell Dan, hey, we need to get this guy days off, and Dan can be overruled in that way. So I think, I think how they'll use Cal, it'll be dependent on off days and if they want to put two catchers in there. Like if there's, the one thing is they actually have some DHs too that can help or whatever. So like if you really truly wanted to give Cal an off day where he doesn't do anything, you can do that a little bit more easily than a year ago at this time.
They've got plenty of options to DH if Garver catches.
Yeah.
Now, whether those options are good, sure, we can debate that. But there are plenty of bodies to DH. I mean, they have a plethora of DHs. Yeah. It's not like they have to run him out there unless he's just got he's got a hot bat and you.
Yeah, and that's what you do though. You can do that. It's a hot bat, and like the one thing is they have Blake Hunt, who's already on the roster. He's sitting in Tacoma. If they really needed to bring in a third catcher, they could do it real quickly. And so I think that's the option. That's what they tried to do last year. I mean, this isn't a situation where we're going to carry a third catcher just because, Garver is a backup catcher. He's going to catch sometimes. They know that. That's his role. I mean, you're trying to maximize value for what you're paying him, and that's how you're going to get value out of it. Because, I think they just believe they're not going to use him as a full-time DH unless he just hits at a rate where he forces them to do that and forces them to change the roster. But, to me, they'll give every opportunity to everybody else and mix and match a bit.
Where are we at with George Kirby? This is the third or fourth time he's kind of, I think, experienced something like this. Give us the latest on where we're at with Kirby right now.
He's still on no-throw status right now. I would imagine here in the next week or two, or the next week, they'll probably put a ball in his hands to see how he feels. But, when you kind of have that inflammation or whatever, they just kind of shut you down first and do some treatment. I don't know if he got a PRP shot in there or not to kind of help the healing process, but a lot of times you go on some medication to get the inflammation down and everything like that, and then you rest it, then you start doing strengthening exercises to build up around the issue, and then you put a ball in your hand. So I mean, the one thing is he was pretty built up already in terms of throwing, so he's not starting from square one, but with every kind of week that you're out, then that means another 2 weeks that you have to build up. So I'm not expecting him back until maybe May 1st at the earliest. I think they realize that he'll probably miss the first couple of weeks of the season. And, the one thing is you don't need to rush him. Make sure he's built up to where you want him. And it's not a situation where, we're going to use him for 3 innings, so we're trying to build him up in games and big league games. That would be stupid.
Give me the concern level they should have right now with him.
Maybe 2 out of 10, 2 or 3 out of 10. This is just shoulder fatigue that he got this when he was right after he was drafted, and he was in that weird summer camp deal,
Yeah.
during COVID. Then he had it, I think, in 21 or 22.
Yeah.
It's just your shoulder gets tired and you just kind of feel fatigue. And then part of it is when it gets like that and you keep throwing, then it gets inflamed and you build some inflammation up. But there's if you notice, Hollander was very adamant, the MRI came back clean. This isn't like with Brash, where when they said with Brash it was the MRI didn't show anything new, because they already knew the UCL was damaged, because everybody has damage to the UCL, but they already knew what Brash's issues were.
Right.
They came back and said, no, there's no structural damage, there's nothing wrong, and honestly, as somebody who's dealt with some of that stuff, he wouldn't have been able to even throw the way he was throwing prior to, if he had those sorts of issues. So, the thing is he could go out and throw and he'd be fine. It was just when the next day he wouldn't feel great, or he wouldn't bounce back because of the inflammation in there. And I think that's where they're at.
How has he taken the news? Have you got a chance to talk to him yet?
I haven't seen him. I was giving him his space for a while. I was going to kind of look for him today, but George doesn't handle this stuff very well. In the sense of he gets pissed easy at stuff like that. He expects to pitch. That's the one thing. It was the whole misnomer of his comments about getting removed in the 7th or whatever. It was a dig because they'd always removed him in the 7th against his protests. And that's why he said it that way. I don't think he articulated the way he wanted to, but it wasn't that he didn't believe in that. It was he was tired. It was more well, you never let me pitch in the 7th ever, and then all of a sudden you expect me to do it. What the hell? Why am I out there if you never?
Right.
I wasn't good, and all these other times where I was rolling, He
wants the ball. He would if it was up to him, right? He would just pitch through this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He didn't think he needed this stuff, but it's smart that they told him, hey, you do. But it took a lot of people to convince him otherwise. You never know. He could be off somewhere by himself throwing a baseball against the wall. We don't really know, George.
Probably. You know what? I wouldn't put it past him for sure.
Go look around local schools around here that's got a chalk with a strike zone out there, and he's out there just listening to his weird dubstep and flipping baseballs against the wall.
You know what? It's our alley isn't big enough, so I don't think my kid could do it. But the dent I would have in my middle garage door. Just every kid's got that, just peppering the thing with tennis balls and whatever.
That's why you gotta go. Yeah, you gotta if there's a local school nearby where they got the brick wall or something place with a brick wall, that's where you go.
Yeah, that's smart. All right, the Hancock. So Hancock will take his spot. How has he looked? Obviously, he's highly regarded, and he's a good insurance policy to have. But he slides right in. How has he looked so far in spring?
He's looked fine. It hasn't looked overwhelming or anything. The thing with Emerson is there is a drop off between those 5 guys to what he is or has been. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have that kind of wipeout stuff. He didn't have a put away pitch that he can go to and get a strikeout or a swing and miss. He relies more on ground balls. He's throwing the sinker. He has worked on a sweeper slider that it is, has some horizontal movement. He needs that because everything he kind of throws is up and down between the sinker, and he has the gyro slider, which is more of it doesn't spin as much, almost like a cutter, and then he's got a really good changeup, but he needed something that's kind of horizontal, changes eye levels. And so that's what the sweeper is. And it's been better. It's probably the most viable breaking ball he's had since he's been drafted.
Who's the next guy after him?
It was probably Logan Evans or Casey Lawrence. If you wanted to go experience, Casey Lawrence can step in and handle it, or Jonathan Diaz. Logan Evans has the most talent of those guys. He just, he's never pitched above Double-A. He'll be in Tacoma.
Evans was the guy that the last year they flirted with making a reliever.
Yeah, and he just didn't. Listening to him talk about it just didn't work how his process worked and everything. And the one thing was his stuff didn't tick up the way they thought it would, and so they moved him back. And I think also, it wasn't going to be a permanent reliever thing. They just thought maybe he could help them last year at some point because their bullpen was so beat up. So he's probably the next up, and he looked better the other day when he pitched. He struggled a little bit early, but I thought the last couple of days he's looked better. or last outing.
Hey, tell the guy he doesn't need to honk right away. The big old semi truck. What the hell's going on? God, there's just. I mean,
It's
we
a
got
Cisco
bombers,
delivery. Yeah,
Cisco deliveries. You picked the best spot to do this show.
it's like I didn't want to do the podcast in the media room. And
I know. This is like, you know what this is like? It's old school Jeff Baker live days.
Oh god, yeah. Well, I have my computer on a chair and I'm sitting outside right now.
It's just like Jeff Baker live.
You
The man was ahead of his time.
You need an exclamation point when you say Jeff Baker live.
I know. Yeah, you do. Okay, let me. I'm going to rephrase that question because I know. Is Logan Evans the next star pitcher? Like who's the next Kirby and Gilbert, Bryce Miller, Brian Wu? Is there one that is the next up and coming guy?
Not that can be an immediate help.
Well, it doesn't have to be an immediate help in a year.
Oh yeah, but even then, I mean, I think that the kid they took last year, the two kids they took last year, Durangelo,
switch pitcher.
Yeah, and that's kind of a misnomer because he doesn't switch pitch the entire time. Like he's much better from. Well, he's much better from the right side than he is from the left side. So, him
Can I stop you real quick?
Yeah.
What does his glove look like? He can do it. How are the rules on that? Can he can't do it. He can't switch mid hitter, right?
Yeah, I don't think he's switch mid hitter. He has to declare.
He has to declare for a batter.
It's like it's not a 6-finger glove, but it's got that weird pocket where it's on both sides.
Okay. All right. I'm just curious what it looked like. All right, so you got him and who else?
Was it Ryan Stout, I believe is the kid's name, the second round pick. He's the one that everybody's been raving about. I mean, the kid is he looks like his face looks 12 years old and his body is like he looks like he's basically man. Yeah, he's like the big dumper. He's like the Cal version of a pitcher from the lower half side. So I mean,
what's his name again?
Ryan Stout, I believe is what his name is.
Right.
And he throws really well, and people have been raving about him. He'll pitch in that prospects game on Friday. Him and Durangelo and Logan Evans and a lot of those guys will pitch in that prospect.
Yeah, I want to get I'm looking forward to that. I want to get to that because they're doing people that don't know. There's this what do they call it again? What's it?
Spring breakout or something like that.
Spring breakout. So it's all the young prospects for these teams will all play on Friday, and the Mariners are playing the Guardians. So you're going to see Durangelo. You're going to see you'll see Cole Young, Colt Emerson, right? You're going to see Montez.
Yeah. Montez. Yeah, all those guys are going to be in there. Harry Ford will be the starting catcher.
Awesome.
I'd assume Logan Evans starts that game, and then Durangelo and Ryan Stout, Michael Morales, some of these other pitchers will all pitch. And you'll look and it'll probably be like Colt Emerson at shortstop, Cole Young at second, Ben Williamson at third, Montez, Ty Pete will be in the outfield, and Montez and the only person
they got Pete at center field, right?
Yeah, they're moving him to outfield on a full-time basis. And then Farmello is the only one of their top 12 that isn't playing because he's coming back from knee surgery. So they'll
if they play well, if they play
just walking by.
Who?
Shannon.
Shannon. Well, I can't even see her at the parking lot. If they play well on Friday, people are going to lose their minds. Why aren't these guys up now?
Well, it's like Emerson. Emerson's first hit was like a 400-foot bomb with 112, and everybody's it should be up. And I am amazed at the level of maturity that kid has.
Yeah. But
he's also 19. I mean, he's 19 years old. What were you doing at 19? I was doing beer bongs and
sniffing butt. That's what
I was doing beer bongs and getting fat,
Hey, Robin Yount played at 18.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm
just saying.
Do I think that Cole Emerson could debut by age 20? Yeah, next season, not this season, but next season. If J.P. Crawford was to go down for an injury, do I think that Colt Emerson would be there? Yeah, I do, because he's that advanced. He's that good. Yeah. And what's crazy is I think that Felnine Celestin is a better defensive player than him.
There he is, Ryan Divish, the Ryan Divish Experience. And again, as I mentioned there, the full Ryan Divish podcast available to Puck's Posse members. Please sign up today. Again, just $5 a month, and you get all this wonderful content. We go about 30 more minutes discussing where the team is at right now, get into a really good discussion about Dan Wilson and a different vibe around the team. Will that pay off? Will it pay off to have Edgar around the team? The different philosophies of where they're at, getting more into the opening day roster as well there with Divish. 50 minutes with Ryan Divish. Available, full show available to Puck's Posse members. $5 a month. Go to pucksports.com. Top of the webpage will take you to the sign up. You give me a few minutes. I gotta put all of it up. So if you, I will always get an email every week. Oh, where is it at? I don't see it. Let me get finished with the show today, and then I'm going to put it up there. Okay, it's a one-man band over here. But there's a 20 minutes of a good 50 minutes with Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times, who again is joining us throughout the baseball season. Full shows, as I mentioned before, are available to Puck's Posse members. If you're streaming the show, the video of it, that QR code will take you right there as well, if that's easier. Or again, as I tell everyone, just go to pucksports.com and sign up that way. Let's wrap up the show with Hey, What the Puck? Brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. Folks, it's your restoration company. Lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when those damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. If you missed our Rob Staton show podcast earlier today, that was a good one. Really good, just inside of going back and forth on the offensive line. And I just think we get in this culture where if people disagree on something, it's all of a sudden now you pick a side, someone's got to hate someone, you're wrong and you're an idiot. I thought both of us just have an opinion on, I think, the dissatisfaction, I think, with fans have with where they're at with the offensive line. And I think that has led to some fans, I think including myself to a degree, of being not upset. I mean, I don't get upset, but like, okay, what's the plan? There's got to be a plan. And, Rob and I had a good spirited chat. Again, it's okay to disagree on things. And I don't even think we really disagreed on things. I think it was just about how you have to preach patience right now. And I do agree with Rob on that one. I don't, it's not over yet what they've done in free agency and what they haven't done. Is there a second wave of these offensive linemen that are available? Absolutely. And if they land one of them, maybe two of them, and then will they no doubt address the offensive line in the draft? Well, of course they will. As Rob has pointed out here for weeks and months, it's a very good offensive line draft class and very good for the position at guard that they are specifically looking at. So can they get one or two guys in the draft? Yeah, and then you couple that with one or two veterans, and all of a sudden now your offensive line is shaping up to be much different. So we do have to practice some – I think both things can be true. I think we do have to practice some patience to see what they end up doing in its finality, including free agency and then with the draft. I also think it's okay for people initially, once this free agency period started, to question whether or not this group and Schneider are capable of doing it, because they have not shown the ability to improve this offensive line. They have failed at it, and have failed at it for a long, long time. And their philosophy of not spending in free agency on this position, it to me is a head scratcher. And I think a head scratcher for a lot of people. And so I think as a fan, it's okay to be initially upset and be like, what are we doing here? With at the same time, making sure as fans, we just don't completely shut the door on them and go, wow, they don't know what they're doing. It's over. Free agency's over. The draft is over and all that. But for John Schneider and his crew that evaluates offensive line, where he does not get the benefit of the doubt is because he's built up no equity with the fan base on can he solve it. That's his problem. It's very similar to Jerry DiPoto in a way of not being where fans get upset because he hasn't built up the equity that he can actually put together a viable offense because he hasn't done it. So again, I think both of those things can be true. And again, you do have to practice some patience, what Rob wrote about at SeahawksDraftBlog.com. But at the same time, it's okay to acknowledge, and I think it's okay for fans to certainly be upset and then concerned of where they're going at with the offensive line. Because, again, maybe they didn't know much about Will Fries and Drew Dahlman, and I'm the first one to raise my hand and go, I didn't know much about those guys. And it's okay. We'll sit there and study film of offensive linemen. But when you read people and you trust people that cover it for a living closely, say these are the top 2 targets, and these are at 2 position groups in which this team needed help, and you don't get either one of them. You don't get one of them. It's okay for fans to be upset about that. And you have a right to be upset about it. All right, that's Hey What the Puck. It's brought to you by Restoration One in North Seattle. It's your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when those damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. All right, big thanks for everyone watching and listening today. Thank you to our sponsors, Limback Lumber, Superior Linen Service, Chalet Bowl, Georgetown Brewery. Check out their new tavern beer at your local bar, and, of course, at georgetownbeer.com. And, as always, big thanks to Restoration One of North Seattle. Today's Daily Puck Drop, find it up on YouTube. When you're there, please subscribe to the channel. Lots of views today. Also, find the Daily Puck Drop on your favorite podcast platforms, and, of course, always up at pucksports.com. When you're at pucksports.com, I encourage you to go sign up, become a member of the Pucks Posse, just $5 a month. You support all the free content and the VIP and exclusive content we provide as well, like our baseball coverage with Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times, and, of course, our ongoing draft series with Dane Brugler from The Athletic. More information, go check it out at pucksports.com, top of the webpage. All right, that's it for a Wednesday. Coming up Thursday's show, we'll talk to Michael Shandugar from The Athletic. Also, we'll talk to Mike Garafolo, who broke the news, had lots of breaking news on the Seahawks. Garafolo, who painted the picture they were going to trade DK, painted the picture that they were going to trade Geno Smith. He will join us tomorrow on the program. Until then, as always, promise to be better.
No shoes, no dice.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!